We exhibit adaptability and flexibility probably every day. Today we're setting up a job over at the Rock Lidditz Hotel, and within 10 minutes of walking in the door, we realized, hey, the way we thought this was going to work isn't going to work, and so we're going to modify our plans. Luckily for us, we're a big enough company now. We usually have the inventory in-house, so we can quickly adapt and adjust to that. But like I said, that happens every day. Same thing happened yesterday when we did the Elko graduation. Frankly, it happened at the Ephrata graduation when they had a rain delay and pushed it to the next day. We're continually adjusting and adapting and trying to just go with whatever curveball comes our way.
So things typically never go as planned in long-term projects. There's always speed bumps usually along the way, or things that you don't think of that come up that are unexpected. So it's just always important to plan for the unexpected to happen, and just to be willing to adapt and to change to meet that need at that time, and work with each other to get things accomplished.
There's always things that are going to happen on just about every project. Sometimes they're worse than others that you just couldn't have foreseen, or where people make mistakes. Someone didn't anticipate something they really should have, and now we're stuck. Now we don't have the materials we need to build a job, and what do? And it's costing everybody money, and there's deadlines. The best thing you can do is, number one, communicate with whoever the stakeholders are, whoever's and even admit, hey, this is where we messed up, or this was beyond our control. And again, you got to kind of collaborate and say, where do we go from here? It's going to happen, and it does. We had a project, some of it was our fault, some of it was the owner's expectations weren't realistic. And so that takes communication at that point with the owner, communicating bluntly, but also in a professional way, that sometimes that having those hard conversations is a big deal. In the end, we got a glowing review, and the building's beautiful, but it was a lot of work.
If you're not adaptable and you're not flexible and you're not able to overcome and look at those as welcome challenges, it's going to be tough for you. When you're faced with something like that could be a hardship, rather than think of the reasons we shouldn't do it or can't do it, you got to be thinking about what can we do to make it happen? What can we do to make it on the positive side rather than the negative side?
Being flexible and adaptable is I would say, my middle name, right? As a business leader, you have to have a strategy, right? A good strategic plan is your roadmap for the future. When I started in this industry, we would strategic plan out 10 years. We would have very specific goals and objectives, and we would track them over a course of 10 years and pat ourselves on the back that we were successful at the end of that 10 years, which seems like a lifetime now. Today, best practice of any industry is really to strategic plan out 3 years and to evaluate that strategic plan every year to make sure that it's still relevant. So that is just an example of how quickly our industry, the environment, the world is changing.
So I've used adaptability and flexibility really throughout my 10 years here at Haller. I started in one position. After 2 years, transitioned into another new position that we created and kind of defined what that position was. So if you look at that roadmap of 10 years, that basically required being adaptable at all times. And it's not to pat myself on the back for saying, oh, I was so adaptable, but being able to be flexible, step into a new role, not get, big thing is not getting intimidated. It's so easy when you step into a new area and there's a need to say, I'm no expert at this. I might know some things, but most people aren't. Most people are faking it to a certain extent, and you just gotta, the way to get past that is you gotta learn, you gotta ask questions, you have to be humble about what you know. Don't try to act like you know things you don't know. A year or two down the road, you'll be the expert that everyone's going to find things out.
If you don't adapt, you become obsolete. I think there's a lot of change happening and very rapidly. And if you're not open to looking at what's changing in the industry, then you won't be around.
So nothing in life is predictable. So meaning that there are going to be a lot of changes that you're not ready for. So for example, I've never thought a pandemic would have happened, or you would expect that a patient will react certain way to certain drugs. But if they don't, you have to be really quick on your feet and try to find the root causes for that, and then and try to come up with solutions.
I would say March 19th of 2020 was a life-changing day for me. To talk about adaptability, it was the toughest day of my career, as I had to downsize the company from 31 employees to 10, and at the same time figure out how to keep those 10 employees employed, at the same time find a way to generate business for a business that had already spent their majority of their expenses with the first 6 months of our fiscal year. So March, we had spent all the money preparing for a baseball season. Talk about trying to adapt, trying to show value for not only yourself, but your colleagues, but then find ways to keep the business going. From the time our county opened, as far as being able to have events, till October 31st, which was about 4.5 months, there was only 4 days that we didn't have an event here at the stadium. We found new ways to encourage folks to use the stadium. We got together. We no longer became sports management folks. We became event business. And I joke with everyone, I didn't move to Lancaster to become a general manager of a movie theater, but last summer I did.
We learned how to be adaptable with COVID-19, which we're a baseball stadium and we didn't have a baseball season. So we really learned a lot about how to host events here, how to be creative, how to utilize our space for something more than baseball. And I think it worked better than anyone expected. And it was really all about not thinking inside the box. We did movie nights, we did field rentals, we did proms we never thought we would imagine, and now we're having 5 proms this year. So it's really all about adapting.
A thing called COVID that happened, last year, the ultimate adapter, right, for most of us at this point. And, we were on the path of several projects. We had a new phone system we were putting in. Our plan was to slowly roll that out and train everybody and have that, live by mid-year. Well, COVID hit, and that phone system was critical to be able to make sure that all of our staff had communication when they're home or not in the offices. So we moved that timeline out and pushed it out to everybody and said, here's some quick 5 minutes and here's some, quick reference guides. Call us if you need some help, right? And so we completely adapted how we were going to do that to solve the need of what we needed immediately.
On paper, it always goes perfectly, but in reality, there's always aspects that you don't want to think about or accommodate for that, you just kind of have to figure it out on the fly and whatever you got to do to modify it, or maybe as close to a spec as the engineer thought it would be. So in that year, also using big communication, not only with the project managers, but with the engineers, kind of come up with a compromise or whatever we can do to make it right.
You need to be flexible. Things happen in class, the mic goes out, things like that. You have to be flexible and ready to problem solve on the spot. I also think to have compassion and understanding for other people and that empathy that, you could have somebody from super high fitness level to just a beginner, and being able to understand that and adapt teaching. Because it's not just being on stage teaching a class, it is also connecting with members and getting them to come back every week and making those connections and those personal things that make them want to come back.
Talk to people that you think are in those industries that you want to go into. Even if you don't know someone in the specific industry, talk to your parents, talk to other adults. It's very funny how connections can be made through, I know Jack and Susie and they know this person, and if just a conversation that can lead you in places that you would never know before.
I would suggest trying to job shadow and talk with different companies. They might give you some different opportunities to take a day and follow one of their electricians around. And also as a junior, you can take the construction cluster at Lancaster County CTC. That's a good step to get a base knowledge and learn, and then possibly get a job out of it.
In high school, definitely take advantage of shadow programs, reach out to people. There's no shortage of connections, especially with LinkedIn or any parents, they all know each other, or even with the schools, they all have connections to sports industry. I would have them reach out, take advantage of those opportunities, and then try and get internships as soon as they can, because you learn what you do like, but most importantly, you learn what you don't like, and you don't waste your time doing something you didn't like all along.